So let's read through the Tosfos, at least that part that we've already done, just fast. Fast forward. Me'idim anu bish plonish hu ben grusha ben chalutza tema kevandim huzmu ein nasim ben grusha vechalutza, which means that we don't fulfill the kasher zama. And the Gemara is going to derive that from Sukkim. And Kain gam b'shalo huzmu. It seems that we do rely on these edim in the absence of hazama, if they stand on their own, and therefore we will passel this kohen as a cholol. Echios alpin ben grusha the hachyu, which is true. V'amai ha'havya havile edus she'i ata yochol azima v'ein ze edus. Okay, then. So that's the kasha Tosus.
Yeah.
How you been? Good. So just move this on the side. Make yourself at home or sit on this side, whatever is convenient. V'yeshlomo kaven delokin. This is what we call teretz number 1 in Tosus. The Mishnah establishes that even though we cannot fulfill kasher zomam in the case of ben grusha mechalutza, but nevertheless the edim, in event that there was hazama, will get malchus, and therefore having kasher zomam. So the breakthrough here of Tosas is that malchus fulfills kasher zomam. Excuse me, and therefore v'havya shapir atayochel azima.
According to that's the first answer.
That's the first answer. We'll soon see that Tosas takes to a complete turnaround with the second answer. He's going to argue that you don't even need Eidah Shata Yochel Azima. But now Tosas is holding that you definitely need Ata Yochel Azima, otherwise the Eidas cannot be acceptable. But Tosas Machadesh, a breakthrough Shita, that the Malchus that we'll get is a Kiyum, is a fulfillment of Kasha Zoma. The Kasha, Tim Kain, Maika Omer Beperka Yubodkin. We cannot accept their edus and put this nara marasa to death. To kavan to inu lo miktali, because the edim themselves cannot be put to death. Which again, if we go through the whole mahalach that we had in Ben Grush, it means that we cannot fulfill kasher zamam literally, but Tos is going to say we should give malchus, because the rule of thumb is that if you can't give him kasher zamam literally, then we drop down to malchus, but malchus itself makes it into ati yochel azima, and yet the Gemara says we cannot put this woman to death because their edus is edus ati yochel azima.
So that means that malchus isn't that's slugging up what
exactly. I'm skipping a few lines for a second. Since A, the rule is that if you can't be Mekayim Kashazom, we give the Eidim Malchus, and B, since the rule is that Malchus itself is Kashazomam, therefore C, in the case of Eidei Nara Murasa, we're going to give them Malchus after Azoma, and as a result of the Malchus, it becomes Eidah Shatiyachal Azima. Why does the Gemara say that we cannot accept these Eidim? The HaZama, this is what we call this, for lack of a better term, I call it the system of symmetry. The HaZama, Kevan Sheboim L'chayvo Misa, you want to rely on these two Eidim and put this woman to death. V'zamamu, because there's mama, and the objective of their Eidus is Larogas HaNefesh, Lo Makayim Kasher Zama B'Malchus. It's not an absolute ironclad rule that in all situations Malchus is Kasher Zamam, and therefore makes it into the Shachti Yochel Zima. There's got to be some relationship, some correspondence, some symmetry. Quid pro quo, symmetry. There's got to be a relationship between Malchus and this mama. If there's no relationship between this Malchus and this mama, and you're going to put this woman to death and give the Eidim Malchus, that's not Ati Yochel Zima. Nefesh b'nefesh gabi hazama. And that's in the case of Edis Nefashos. So because they were Zomim to put someone to death, we'll put them to death. That makes it Yochel Azima. V'lo choshev Yochel Lazima b'Malchus. The fact that we'll give him Malchus, Tos is not denying that premise. We will give Malchus to the Edom who were Huzmu in the case of Nari Maros Shezinso. But that Malchus would not make it into Eidah Shat Yochel Azima. Now, again, there's a circle here, because as soon as we establish that it's Eidah Shiyat Yochel Azima, then we might come to the conclusion that we can't give Malchus because we're not going to accept their Eidos. But that's, again, a very iffy question. That's a very iffy premise on our part, because it could be that we'll give him Malchus because lesser al baila banu, right? Because even according to their denial of Liskila banu, they deny that they came to put it to death, but they admit that they came to lesser al baila banu. So maybe we would give a malchus for that edus.
Yeah, but you can't do that. And that's also Yatalach.
No, because then malchus would be symmetrical. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Why is that symmetrical?
Because isurim generate malchus. No, it's more than that. No, it's more than that. Yeah. But I'll show you, for example, the next line, what I have in mind. What about in the case of Edi ben Grush ben Chalutza? Lo kivun el l'shavi ben Grush ben Chalutza, deleka ki im lav bialma. When we're dealing with an Isur, and when you're accusing someone of an Isur, and as a result of the Isur, in the case of Ben Grush Ben Chalutza, the Kohen is possible, then... So again, when we're dealing with Malchus and Isurim, now, I'm going to fast forward for a minute, and then we'll go backwards, but take a look at page Yud Gimel here in the Otzim Mefarshe HaTalmud.
This is still from last time, Yud Gimel. 1 second. It should be back from, I'll tell you when. Yud Zayin. Yud Zayin?
No, Yud Gimel.
Oh, Yud Gimel, it's going to be even further back.
No. Again, the more I look into it, the more I see how much depth there is.
November 28th.
That was a good day.
It was Tet through Tet Zayin.
It wasn't such a good day for the Kohen, who got accused of being a Ben Grushim and Chalutza. He says, "Mashakosva Tosfos." Listen, Balpeh, even if you don't see it. Shebe'edus Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza Eino El Lav Bilvad. Let's underline those words in Tosfos so we know what we're talking about. You have the ability to underline words in your Tosfos?
I do have the ability, but I don't have a pencil.
Okay, I'll give you a pencil in just a second. First, I'll do it in my book, because Chayecha Kodmin. Okay, so what does it say over here? It says that Amol Hacha Shelo Kiven Elo L'Shavi Ben Grusha Deleka Ki Im Lav Bialma. Here it is. Okay, here's a pencil. Deleka Ki Im Lav Bialma.
I remember the Leka came out Ba'alma.
Okay. So he says, Kavanasam, what Tosfos has in mind is, Im Yasa Avoda B'Migdash, and he's a Chol and he's Pasul, a Kahuna, O Yochal Truma, then he violates Allah. Shedin Cholol Kedin Zar. And just like a Zar is Muzhar, right? He is enjoined from eating truma or doing avodah the mikdash. So to a chalal has the same din and the same status as a zar. I always forget, you're a Hebrew speaker?
Both.
Both? Okay, so for the meantime, since we started in English, we'll
go for it.
Yeah, because we heard that Akiva's not coming. He stood us up. He had a better day tonight. Whatever it is, I'm just joking. Okay. So what happens here? Yesh Tema. He has a cash over here.
Where are you in there? Just point to it.
Here. Yesh Tema. Shegam be'edus ben grusha efshar shino gas lechiv misa. Why are you telling me that there's symmetry here? That when we give the edim zomim and malchus, it fits like a glove to their original zmama when they wanted to make this Kohen into a apostle because it's only a lav. Wait a second. What do you mean it's only a lav? That's not true. Kohen she'asa avodah b'mikdash b'Shabbos. If the Kohen went into the Mikdash on Shabbos and he's a cholol and he did avodah, he's chayiv misa for that. Sharei lefiyei do some who pasal avodah nipsu shu chayiv misa mishum chilul Shabbos. When a Kohen does avodah in the Mikdash, he violates many, many different malachas. So if he's a Kohen kosher, the Torah says Ola Shabbos b'Shabbato, and therefore the carbon, the avodah overrides the Shabbos. But if he's pasal and therefore his avodah is psula, then he's going to be chayav misa for violating the Shabbos. So how can you tell me that it's commensurate to give him malchus, because the worst case scenario is that they, the Edom, accused illegitimately this Nidon, this Kohen, of being a cholol, which is only Averis Alav. But it's much more than an Averis Alav. It could lead to a Chiv Misa. And now you're going to let him go off the hook with malchus? That's not Eidush HaTiochel HaZima.
One second. That's only if they already did avodah. What if they didn't do any avodah?
No, he's saying the following. What are the long-term repercussions
Only
of
if
taking
it-
a Kohen and making him into a apostle?
If he then goes ahead and does a
Correct.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's
No, but I'm just saying,
He's saying
You
so
know,
it could come to that. It's
To-
not just the din of
Tosfos says the following. Listen to Lashon and Tosfos. Leka ki im lav bialma.
at that moment in time. You can't punish. I can't.
But it
I
has-
can't be responsible for what he's going to do tomorrow. I mean,
But it has the potential.
Okay. Look, you could have written the text. What should I tell you? He says the following. I'm going to fast forward here. He says, Yesha Piresh, Lashon Tosfos. Do you see this, the bottom of the right column?
Yeah.
Shebe'edus ben grusha leka kim la ba'alma. What does Tosfos mean? Ain't only shigras halosh. It doesn't mean that in the worst case scenario it could never go beyond the law. Ain't kavanasam le'inyan shem asa voda b'migdash oshachal oshachal truma sheover al. That's not what he's talking about. They're not even testifying that he did the avodah of the mikdash. V'gam lo ichpas lan shemitoch edezu mista'ef chiyuv misa im yas avodah
that's exactly what I
b'Shabbos.
was just saying.
Exactly what
Well,
you're
he said you
saying.
could have written
That's what I'm telling you. You could have written the text.
I thought you were joking.
I wasn't
No, but
joking.
it's totally true because
Listen, guys, get used to my style. If I say you could have written the text, I mean that seriously. I would never say that as a chanifa, as a bluff.
But it makes sense also because then any Eidei Kiddushin would also. I mean, you're saying that the woman is married. If she goes out and has relations with with after she's married, because you witness that she's a married woman. If she goes out and has relations with someone who's not her husband, she's chayav mita.
You can't
So
be on the
any
hook for that.
aid kiddushin, according to that, should be also
On the hook.
on the hook.
Meaning, I don't know what you mean by on the hook. I would say the aid
Potentially
should be unacceptable according to the Havamid of Tosfos.
potentially causing
Right.
of
Right. So it should be any do it.
Correct. So if we're going to look at it, mista'ef me'aidut,
right.
the repercussions down the line, then in the case of Eddie Kiddushin, to make the Eidim into Yachal Azima, we have to put them to death. Then we can't put them to death.
Right.
They can only get Malchus. It should be Eivashiyat
I
Yachal
would
Azima.
think Grusha is even.
1 second.
All
right, a Grusha, they said it.
Let me
They
just
said it.
digest this for a minute.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
So
But
that- No, I don't.
either way, if according to their
Look, it raises problems. You could probably pick almost any set of Eidim and
right.
You know what? I'm not sure you're right.
I'm not sure. Either.
You might be right, but I just want to present a possible dissenting view.
he wasn't sure he was ready there, to be fair.
Let me give you, you know what the phrase Beispiel means? That's a Yiddish phrase, like Mashal Amad Dover Dom.
Okay.
Lu Yitzuyar.
Yeah, but this mashal, I don't want you to assume that it fits like a glove, but it's just l'sabertos, and I want to convey a
Okay.
message. The Rambam says that a Zokin Mamre disagrees with the Sanhedrin on something that yesh bo chiyuv kares, and certainly Misa, which is even greater than kares. But for a lav, if let's say the Bezdin Agadol paskin that this is shatnez or this is nevela, and he disagrees, he would not be chayav as a Zokin Mamre. So let's say the Bezdin Agadol would point to this person and say he's a Kohen kosher, and the Zaken would say no, he's a Kohen apostle, he's a Chol. Would he be Chayav Misa as a Zaken Mamre? And the answer is no. Why not? Because what he is arguing about is a lav, whether or not the Kohen is enjoined from doing the avoda or eating truma. And a lav doesn't fall under kares. But maybe he'll come along and do the avodah on Shabbos, and therefore be chayav misa and skila for Shabbos. So that's mistayif mimenu. We'll get back to that in a second. Here's another case. Bezdin paskin about this woman that it doesn't matter either way, by the way. Either they paskin that she's an Eishes and he disagreed, or they paskin that she's not an Eishes, she's a Priya, and he disagrees, says no, she's an Eishes. Would he be put to death as a Zokin Mam? And the answer is yes. You'll ask me, wait a minute. Again, you're talking about mistayef mimenu. You're talking about what happens if this woman goes ahead and has a relation with another man. Why is that a chiyuv kares? And the answer is because ishus, if you're determining a status of a woman as an ishus ish, that is an erva. That is by definition a chiyuv kares. Masha Enkin, if you're determining that this coin is a chol, that's an isolah.
Even if nothing ever happened. Oh, do
you follow what I'm saying?
You're creating the status of parents.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that this, you can't take this concept of mistayef mimenu too far. You can't take it too literally. Because what we're using about mistayef mimenu is we're trying to classify the essence of the nidon here. What is the nidon? Is the nidon a nidon of lavim? Again, you can jump on your do some sorts of, it was Shabbos and this and that, so the lav ended up with a chiyuv misa. But that's not what the edus is. The edus is to passel him as a lav, as a zar who's not allowed to do the avod. That's a lav in the Torah. But ishus is something different. Ishus, in its very essence, is a davar shebe'erva. That's a chiyuv kares, a chiyuv misa.
So
I'm not talking about what's mistayef mimenu.
So what you're saying is that if Avodah Mikdash al Yedei Azar would have been a chiyuv misa, then they would be the same as a shesish.
Right.
And it would have
Not
tremendous
mistayef mimenu.
nafkaminas, by the way.
Yeah.
That's what I. So I'm
But
not
it's not.
sure. Right, that's not
But
so.
It's not because it's
Not so.
It's not
Could
the
you-
status.
could
as a
you-
result of that, if
Right.
you did
Could
something
you
else,
do
like Shabbos,
somersaults in the air and come up with a chetimtza where, like, I'll give you another example. Here's another example. This will be a good test case. The Beis Din HaGadol Haskins that this is Arla. Arla is also Banoy, you know that.
Yeah.
And the Zaki Mamri says it's not Arla. Is he Chayiv Misa? Well, I'm going to tell you, Ki'ilu, he should be Chayiv Misa. You know why? Because if a man takes this Arla and he's Makadish and Isha and Ein Kiddushin Tovsin, but what? Isuri Anah, therefore, she's not an Eishasish. And if somebody has Pia with her, he's not Chayav Misa. And according to Sanhedrin, he's Chayav Misa because this is Arla. Or the other way around. Do you follow what I'm saying?
No,
That's already
lost you
Mistayef.
I lost you on that one. Where would there have been a chiyuv misa?
There would have been a Chiyuv Misa according to the Zaki Mamri. If the Zaki Mamri says this is not Arla, Feifner on it, go blow your nose. This is not a Chiyuv Misa.
Okay, it's not-
Then he took this so-called Arla, which is Arla according to the Sanhedrin Agdol of 70 elders.
And she's not, and
then she
and
had-
it's not, and there's no kedushin there. There's no kedushin there.
According to him.
According to Beis Din HaGadol.
No, based on wait, which way? I always forget. It doesn't matter which way. So let's not get confused.
Either way.
But let's say Beis Din HaGadol paskins that Zisuri Anah and there's no kedushin. He paskins that she's an Eishasish. According to his psak, she's Chayiv Misa as a Baal Eishasish. Therefore, does that mean that therefore
She's chayiv misa as boil shesish.
okay?
After, she's no.
Howie,
Yes.
Howie. What I'm trying to convey, we're getting too much.
I understood.
Forget about-
I understood what
No,
you said.
no,
before.
forget
You were
about the
trying to convey
nuances
the
here.
essence, but
I'm just
I didn't
telling
get this
you
one.
that if there was a machlokus about Isuri Hana, it would have an afkamina as to whether we put a woman to death. Just accept that.
How?
Well, I'll explain that to you. But just accept it, on blind faith. What is the nature of the edus? It's edus on lavim. The question is, do you violate a lav when you eat this arla? He says yes. They say no. It could have an afkamina because the Surya no lav mamon, and the kedushin is not kedushin, and therefore, according to one opinion, she is mekudeshes, and she'll be chayiv freishasish, and we'll put her to death. And according to the other opinion, it's no kedushin, she's a pruya. Do you follow what I'm saying? Whenever you argue about the status of Isuri no, it's going to have a repercussion down the line for issues. But nevertheless, it's defined and classified essentially as a lav, and that's what we're talking about in the Kohen Gadol. In the case of Kahuna, yeah, I can stand on my head and derive all sorts of repercussions. I can tell you that we'll have a machlokas about a dreidel, and it'll be an afkamina linyan bisa. I'll
Yeah.
come up with a case where
You could.
you know what I'm
Definitely.
saying.
Yeah, if he took the dreidel and he threw it at someone.
All right. Anyway, that's this piece over here. All right. Now we skipped the following. Go back, if you can, to page Yud Beis, which is the left column to the side of Yud Aleph. Okay.
In the middle, Tosfos?
Yeah. Because we already went through that part of Tosfos. That Tosfos established that I don't understand why this Eidei Nara Marasa is Eidei Shiyat Yochel HaZima when we're going to give the Eidei Malchus. The Yeshet Tama. Are you able to find that? It's like in the text itself, it's about line 4. The Yeshet Tama al Kushsat Tosfos Sheichayvu Misa L'Naru Rasa. Now here we have a kasha from Rabbi Simcha Midvinsk, the Or Sameach. The Or Sameach says he doesn't understand, he questions the premise of Tosfos that in Eidei Nara Murasa, the Eidim after HaZama will get Malchus. He questions that premise. And all of Tosfos is predicated on that assumption that we give Malchus to these Eidei Nara Murasa. Let's understand the structure of Tosfos, and then we'll understand the attack of Rameir Simcha. The structure of Tosfos is that there are two implications of their Eidos. Number one, she's Chayeves Misa, and number two, she's Asur al Baila. We're always going to take the lower of the two. But if we take the lower of the two, then we're left with a lav, with Isurim, and therefore we'll give them Malchus. Everything makes sense.
Why take the lower of the two?
Because again, you want to give these Eidim Misa, they have a right to say, we didn't come to give on Misa, we came Los Al Baila, give them benefit of the doubt. They have a right to say, we only came for the lower of the two.
We are lying, but believe us in that we only lie for the most.
How can you, the way it's Palgin and Dibura? It's the same thing.
Okay, so that the Gemara goes through in Masechet Ksubis, and the Gemara comes to the conclusion they didn't give her Asra. Okay, again, the Gemara goes through all of this, Howard. You're on the right track, but I'm just saying. So what's Rameir Simcha's problem? Rameir Simcha says the following. The Eidim here could play a game. If you want to give them Misa, they'll say, we came only Los Al Baila. But if you want to give them Malchus, they're going to say that we came to give a Misa. And the Rameir Simcha assumes that unless you are definite one way or the other, it falls between the cracks. You can't give them Misa and you can't give them Malchus. That's the kasha of Rameir Simcha.
But normally, you don't give them both because of Kimle, Kimle b'derav. I mean,
correct. We certainly wouldn't give them both.
So why don't we just give them? If we can't give them the more chamur one because we're not sure, why can't we just give them the?
Because they have a right to say that we didn't.
Right to say
we didn't come
to do that.
We didn't do that. We went to came from Misa. Do you see it? It's on the bottom of the left column here, which is page Yud Beis. Hishem Shema Bo Liosral Baila. You can't give him Misa. Umalchus lo, you can't give Malchus because Shema Bo L'chai Misa.
Ingenious Aiden.
So Rameir Simcha offers the following answer. He says, Kevin Shalo Hisruba. The Gemara says in Ksubas that we're talking about a case where they didn't give Hare Hasra.
L'nara Murasa.
Is therefore Hareim Lokim Kishahuzma. In other words, the absence of Hasra itself proves that they didn't come for the purpose of putting her to death, because we're going to interrogate the Eidim. We're going to ask them, you want us to put her to death? Did you give her Asra? By their own admission, they didn't give her Asra. So Memela, their Eidus from the get-go, essentially is an Eidus Losra Al-Baila.
All right. So they can't really claim either way.
Yeah. Unless, again, they can't get out of the claim against them that Los Baila. They can't wiggle their way out of that claim. Why? Because they didn't give Asra. And if they didn't give Asra, that proves that their intention in the Zmama was not Laharoga Osa, but rather Los Baila. Okay. Yesha Makshin. So we're now on the left column here, which is page Yudalit.
Yeah.
And now we have a kasha from the Aruch LaNer. You all heard of the Aruch LaNer? I'm a gigantic fan of his. Not that he needs my approbation. His name was Ettlinger, Yaakov Ettlinger. He was the Rebbe of Rab Shimshon Fall Hirsch in Germany. In 1820, he was kicked out of the university when he was studying philosophy in Germany because he was Jewish. So German anti-Semitism is an old phenomenon. But I always say that if you know a little history, British anti-Semitism is even older than German anti-Semitism. Anyway,
second.
So what bothers the mind of the Aruch LaNer?
Aruch LaNer and the Iglay Tal is the same person?
No. Iglay Tal is much later. Iglay Tal probably died in the 20th century already. The Sukkot of a Rebbe. The Mishnah, let's go back to the Mishnah to appreciate the Aruch LaNer's problem here. The Mishnah says, Me'idin anu bi'ish ploni shu chayav golus ein omrim yigla zetachtov el lo ke'arbon. Now let's analyze this case. And I'm going to ask you a question and you're going to jump the gun, I'm almost sure. When two Eidim testify that Reuven killed Shimon b'shogeg, are they testifying that Reuven is a Rotzeach? Or are they testifying that Reuven is Chayav Golus? Now, you're all going to tell me intuitively, and I don't blame you for judging for this, that it's Eidos on Golus. The Aruch LaNer says that's not so. He's going to prove to you that this Eidos is Eidos on the Gavra HaRotzeach. And therefore, the entire structure of Tosas now falls and crumbles in front of our eyes. Tosas says that in the worst case scenario in Ben Grusha Mechalutza, their Eidos is on a lav, and therefore what? Malchus is a kiyum of HaZama. It's symmetrical to a lav. Fact the Aruch LaNer, you've gotten away with the case of Ben Grusha, but you're not going to get away with it in the case of a Rotzeach B'Shogeg, because Eidos on a Rotzeach B'Shogeg is Eidos that he's Chayav Misa. Oh, what do you mean, Chayav Misa? He's going to run to the Yer Mikla. But what happens if he doesn't make it to the Yer Mikla? What happens if the Goel Adam kills him? The Torah says, Damim ein lo. He's a dead man. He can hold on to the Yer Mikla to save his skin. Let's look at it inside.
No, he can't be a dead man. He can't be a dead man.
Well, maybe you took me literally when I said he's a dead man. He's alive. I didn't mean to say that.
A dead man walking. I would parallel it to the Michta Shiurei. It's if he's dead, he's not dead. If somebody else kills him, they're going to be Chayav Misa.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Only the Goel Adam.
No, I think that depends on a machlokas tanoim. According to one Tana, the Goel Adam has a mitzvah, and everyone else has a reshus. I don't know how we paskin. So it's a Mishnah later on in Marcus, the second parak.
We'll get back to it.
But let's look at the Aruch LaNer. The Aruch LaNer says the following: Yesha maksha b'tirusav shel Tosfos shem misyashev hadin arishon, meaning Eidos Ben Grusha. Aval adayin yiksha din hasheni. Hello, Eidei Golus. Yesh be'idusam chiyuv misa. Do you hear what the Aruch LaNer is saying? That when two Eidim testified that Reuven inadvertently slipped on a banana peel, fell down and killed Shimon, that's called Eidos on a chiyuv misa. How could the Aruch LaNer have the chutzpah to say such a thing? Shehutar domo l'gol adam. Because the Gol Adam is allowed to kill him. Again, we have to know about other people, how he's asking. The ech miskayim bohem kashazom al yidei malchus. I understand in Ben Grusha Chalutza, the tip top is a law. They're not allowed to go into the Migdash, the Avodah. They're not allowed to eat truma. Fine, but in the case of Rotzeach, you're talking about a chiyuv misa. Otherwise, how did the Torah say the Gol Adam is allowed to kill him?
How can it be a chiyuv misa?
Can you allow someone to kill an innocent person?
How can it be a chiyuv misa though? You're saying that it's more chomer than somebody's that's rotzeach b'chavana, because somebody that's rotzeach b'chavana is only chayav misa if you have Edom and Hasra, and this is clearly no Hasra. So how can it be that
Again,
it's
how you have to know more about Golus for this. I think what happens there are two times that the Gol Adam could kill the Rotzeach, but let's talk about the second time. First, we bring him into Bezdin, and we bring Edom. And they testify that he killed the Gol Adam's brother, whatever it is. And then, at that point, after Bezdin Paskins, that he's a Rotzeach, he's got to flee and defend himself by protecting himself in the Mikvah. If now the Gol Adam kills him, the Gol Adam goes off scot-free. According to one day, it's a mitzvah for him to kill him. Now, you're asking about the first round, before the Edom testified. Okay, that we have to know more about Makkos. So comes along the Orchlan there, and he quotes a Ritva. The Ritva says that I'm not sure how to classify Golus. And then Afkamina is going to be what happens. We'll see the two Tzadim, but then Afkamina, just that you have a look at the, where we're trying to get to. What happens if a man in front of Bezdin confesses that he killed so-and-so Peshogeg? Is he chayiv Golus? Based on Hodas Atzma.
If it's a question of if it's a question of defining himself as a Rotzeach, then no. Eino de Mesim Atzmo Rasha.
If he's chayiv Misa, and that's the essence of the din of a Rotzeach, he can't be mechayiv himself Misa. But if it's a separate din that, you weren't careful enough, there was negligence, you should have checked the handle of the axe and it flew off and so forth and so on. Therefore, we're going to give you a possibility of kapara. Then the Ritva says, kapara, we believe you to be mechayiv yourself kapara. Let's see it inside. This topic of Ritva B'Shmua Seinu in our sugya, Im Adam Gol Al Pi Atzma. What's it sad to say yes? Shagolus kapara. He wants a kapara. If I confess to a kapara, then I have to go through that kapara. Oh, second side of the Ritva. Cave when sheyesh begolus chiv misa. Look at the language of the Ritva. This is 8 centuries before the Aruch LaNer. Im yaksa chutz l'tchum. He's chayiv misa. Shehuter l'gol adam lahargo. Eino gol al pi atzmo. Because then he's being mowed on a chayiv misa. Ulitzad zeh, according to the second side in the Ritva, or I should say, according to the first side of the Ritva, right? Shechovas gols nidona ke kapara v'lo kechiv misa misyasheves shapir sforas hatosvus shemiskayim behem kashuzomam al yidei malchus. Okay, now we get to the second teretz in Tosfos. Radical change. The Odei Shlomo. Does everybody have the place? If you're looking at the Tosfos, you'll see the Gemara where it says Gemara, you drop down about 5 lines. And at the end of that line, the Odei Shlomo. That's if you have a Vilna Shas. Trouble with my guys in Katamon is many of them have the Steinsaltz Shas. So when I tell them where to find it, they have no clue. Anyway, the Odei Shlomo. We don't have a requirement of Atiyochel Azima. It's not in the parsha of HaZama. How do we derive the conclusion that we require Eidush Atiyochel Azima? We derive it from Kasha Zama. Muchach begemar the Kasha Zama lo nichtav legabe Eidush ben Grusha ben Chalutza klal or lokoy ale klal. When the Torah says Vasisim lo kashazamam, it's not referring to a Ben Grusha case because lo v'lo lazaro. So there's no inclusion whatsoever of Ben Grusha, Eidos Ben Grusha Ben Chalutz in the parsha of kashazamam. Adarabah, the opposite is true. There's an exclusion, and if Eidos Ben Grusha Ben Chalutz was excluded from Kashazama, then you don't require Kashazama. You don't require Eidush Atiyachal Azima because the entire requirement of Atiyachal Azima is derived from what? from Kasher Zamam. But if the Torah excluded this Eidus from Kasher Zamam, then you don't require Eidus Shatiyochel Azima. Avol Hasam. In our paradigmic case of Eidus Shatiyochel Azima Gavinara Murasa, Vadai Kasher Zamam Koi Nami Aleim. If not for the fact that they omitted Hasra, if they had gone ahead actively and given her a Hasra, then Miktal Inu Kisha Huzmu. We would kill these Eidim. They would not be able to say, well, we didn't have in mind, we didn't intend to kill her. Well, you gave her Hasra. You warned her that she'll be put to death if she goes through with this terrible action. The Hisru Ba Miktale Inu, they will be put to death. Kisha Huzmu. Ve'ilu I below Huzmu. And if there was no HaZama, she will be put to death because they are considered Eidus Shatiyochel Azima. And why is that Shatiyochel Azima? Because they gave her Asra, and clearly their intention was to put her to death. But in a case where they didn't give her Asra, then we cannot accept their Eidus at all. Why not? Because then it becomes Eidus Shatiyochel Azima. Because if you're going to say, well, we want to put you to death the same way you wanted to put her to death, I didn't want to put her to death. I didn't even give her Asra. So in this case, Tosafos says, of Eidus on Nara Murasa Shezitza, it is in the parsha of Kasher Zamam. If only they had given her Asra. But wait a second, they didn't give her Asra. So it's Eidus Shatiyochel Azima. So Tosafos says, in such a case, they didn't give Asra. We have to throw out the Eidim. But in Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, there's no way whatsoever under the sun that this Eidus could be subject to Kasher Zamam, because they wanted to make him and his children into Chalolim, and the Torah says, Lo, v'lo l'zaro.
So what do they get Malchus?
And the Torah says they get Malchus.
Why?
Why? Because of Losana Briacha Eitzchaka, because of the Eidus Shek.
Even though it's a love shame by myself.
Yeah. And now we want to study the Noda B'Yehuda and the Beis Halevi, because the Noda B'Yehuda is going to ask a kasha, and the Beis Halevi is going to try to answer the kasha. So let me give a little bit of an introduction to the Noda B'Yehuda. The Noda B'Yehuda's kasha is based on a sugya in Sanhedrin Mem Aleph about what's called drishos v'chakiros. So there's 7 chakiros that we interrogate the Eidim, and we ask them b'ezeh zman u'b'ezeh makom. And why? So the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, because if they don't answer the questions of Zman and Makom, it becomes Eidus Shatiyochel Azima. Frek Noda B'Yehuda, 2 Eidim come into Bezdin, and they testify that this Kohen is a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza. Do they require Chakiros? Do they have to answer the questions of Zman and Makom? We just finished saying that according to the Gemara in Sanhedrin, why do we ask them and press them and require of them an answer to the questions of Zman and Makom to make it 8? But now Tosafos took Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza and he ripped it out of the parsha of Kasher Zamam.
So there's no requirement of Shatiyochel Azima. So then you don't need the Chakira.
Pile plum. Do you know what that means? That 2 Eidim can come into Bezdin, point to a Kohen, say Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, so we can't even ask them a question. Were you there at the time of the get? Were you there at the time of the Leda? How do you know he's a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza? Leave that all out. Because all that is necessary by what? By virtue of the Atayochel Lazima requirement in Eidim. But there's no Atayochel Lazima requirement with regard to Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza.
Well,
is that not a brilliant question, Rabbi? We should be dancing. Who wants to dance? I'm going to want to dance now. Okay, I'll dance along.
I'm not going to dance.
This is Olam Haba, Rabbi.
I'm not going to
God
dance.
gave us Olam Haba and Olam Haza with this kasha of the Noda B'Yehuda.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Why?
Because what you're saying essentially is that the only requirement for Drisha v'Chakira of basic facts involving the Eidus, the only reason for requiring that is the technicality of Eidus Shatiyochel Azima. Aside from that, you don't need anything. The Bezdin doesn't have to be convinced that they're telling the truth. You don't have to know that there are any facts, nothing, just a technicality. Is it Efshar Lazima? Efshar Lazima? Okay, finished. It's not. There's more to what Besdin does.
How you could have written the text. And I'm not joking now. So please take me seriously. That's the Beis Halevi. But I was presenting to you the Noda B'Yehud.
But what did they know about? Where is this Havamina?
His Havamina was based on a Gemara. The Gemara says that why do we need Drishos and Chakiros? The Gemara says that if they say Eini Yodea and they can't answer Drishos and Chakiros, it's Eidu Sheyati Yochel HaZama.
I understand.
You can't blame Noda B'Yehud for that. That's explicit in the Gemara. The Noda B'Yehud is saying if I
But
apply
it doesn't
that,
mean it's the only reason that you require it. It's one of the reasons that you require it, but not necessarily the only one. The
okay.
idea about Bishnai Shneidim Yakum Davar is the idea that you'll check and see that they're both
But
saying the
Howie,
same thing and it's
at the end of the day, why does the Gemara need to introduce HaZama to explain and justify that if they say Eini Yodea to Zman and Makom, that we throw out the Eidos? Why? The Gemara says, we have to throw out these Eidos. Why? Because they don't know the answer to questions as basic and as fundamental as Zman and Makom. Why do we have to introduce this whole, tra-la-la in the sky over here because of HaZama? Forget about HaZama. That's a kasha I'm going to ask on the Beis Halevi, but let's...
But I would say,
Yeah.
Why can't you say anything else? I agree with Noda B'Yehud. He's right. It's a good question.
I think the Noda B'Yehud actually, let's go through it. I think he paskin l'halach that you don't need Risha v'chaykir. Let's just see inside. Omar echad eini yodea. Okay, fine. Umitoch kach. Do you have it? It's about let's say 12 lines down from the bottom. The line starts with ein. If you can move your finger up and down. Umitoch kach yotzal adun. In other words, the Yehuda vacillated back and forth.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tetvav. I didn't announce the page. Gabi edim sheidu beisha laosal baila. Right. So we said that they didn't give her asra, but she doesn't need a asra losal baila. All you have to do is clarify that she had a maises nus, and then she's asra baila.
אף אם תמצא לו מה שיש בהם צורך בדרישות וחקירות.
אבל כיוון שאין מסקיים בהם עונש הזמה לסר נשוסם עליהם, מסקבל את עדוסם גם כשאין יודעים הזמן והמקום. 99, should Noda B'Yehuda. So imagine, Rabbosai, we're talking about two Eidim that testify against a woman who's a married woman and she had znus. They didn't give her asra. And li'osa al baila banu.
And they're not made on Zman v'Mokom.
Right. Wait, before you get to that, and they're not in the parsha of Kasha Zomam. We cannot kill them because they have a right to say Lo Sal Baila Banu. Right? So we're going to accept their Eidim. Just 1 second. And what? Right. It's Ef Shalakayim B'Mazoma of Misa because they're going to claim Osal Baila Banu, so we'll only accept their Eidos as Losal Baila Banu, and we'll give them Malchus. And the Noda B'Yehud wants to say that they don't know the answers to questions of Zmanu Makam. Do you hear what's going on here?
And B'chol Zot Miskabela they do some.
But listen to the repercussions. Two Eidim testify that a woman can no longer live with her husband because she lived with another man, and they're not even able to answer the questions. When did this happen? Where did it happen?
It doesn't make any sense though. Zman. They have to know Zman. How do you know she was married? Maybe
Zman means they have to know which Shemitah, which year in the Shemitah, which month in the Shemitah, which week in that month, which day in that month. That's called Zman. We know it happened in the last 3 months. You know what I'm saying?
How?
So they know
it happened.
I'm just saying that to be Yehuda.
If you don't give me a date.
I know it was after, what's it called? Sylvester, whatever it is. Yeah. Okay. We won't go into right. So
that'll be good.
So what happens over here? The Noda B'Yehuda actually vacillates la'aloch l'maisa in a case where you take Eidos out of the parsha of Kasha Zoma, because we can't do to the Eidim what they wanted to do to the Nidon. And Tosafos says that in those cases, we take it out of the parsha of Kasha Zomam. We don't need answers to Zman and Mok. Could you imagine?
Yeah, but then continue.
This is the Beis Halevi.
Okay.
V'yesh
It's all like
hacholet,
Besover.
v'sover she'ein kavanas hagmar v'saned shemitzad gufa shel edus shamed din chakiros hazman v'amakol din bedikos. Bedikos means when we ask him what color hat was he wearing and what was the weapon and so forth and so on, and he could say in Yodea, I don't remember if he wore a white hat or a yellow hat or a red hat. And the same is true for Zman and Makom. And the only reason why we need answers to the questions of Zman and Makom is only for the Efsharut in order to make it possible for HaZama. No. El hatam hazeh sheyesh tzorech shetuchal liskayim b'hem efsharus HaZama. From this, I think we get a derech halimud here. Hu gilui lebiuro shal hakosim v'darashta v'chakarta shenemen liakim. How do we know that the pasuk of Chakiros, when the Torah commands the Bezdin to be Choker, how do we know that that's liikuva, that that's absolutely critical? And if Bezdin failed to go through the process of Chakiros, then the Edus has to be thrown out of court. Oh, so the Gemara is using HaZama only as a proof that Drisha v'Chakira is essential, is a critical, absolute, indispensable requirement in Edus. But once we have proven that, once we've proven that through the Mahalach of HaZama, now the Torah is being Megala to me that what is the essence of Edus? The essence of Edus is barer, it should be clear, Beidusam Azman Shalamaisa. When did it happen? Where did it happen? And therefore, according to Tosafos' second text, you don't need Eidush Hatiyachal Azima. Nevertheless, we still need answers to the question is man of God, because that's the essence of the Eidush. I'm so amazed here because, the Noda Yehuda was probably the greatest mind of Ashkenazic Jewry in the last 3.5 centuries. I can't begin to tell you, how many tshuvas. Recently, I saw an article about autopsies. And the whole article is based on the Noda Yehuda. And now comes along the Beis HaLevi, Rabbi Yoshe Ber Brisker, who lived at the end of the 19th century, or mid to the end of the 19th century, and he disagrees with the Noda Yehuda. Why? Because of lumdus, because of conceptualization. Because he says that the Gemara is only talking about a gilui. But the gilui, even though it's technical, is only meant to prove that this is an absolute critical requirement that they answer the questions Zman u'Makom. And how am I megala that? Because otherwise it's Eidush Hatiyachal Azima. But we don't have to go through every single case and every single Eidus and now check out whether it's Yochel Azima or Yochel Azima. Do we require answers to the questions of Zman U'Makom? Do we not require? No. Once we've proven that in cases X, Y, and Z, when the Eidim are testifying in a way that they are subject to HaZama, the Torah requires that Yochel Azima, and they have to expose themselves to the possibility of HaZama by answering the question Zman U'Makom. Now we establish that Zman U'Makom is Migufa Shal Eidus. And therefore, it's a requirement in every single Eidus. And then he adds another point. Shebedin Eidus hatiyochal azima le'shtei halachos. What does that sound like, shtei halachos? In Yiddish. Tzvei dinim. Right? Who is the one who's famous for tzvei dinim? Reb Chaim. But who's talking here? Father. Reb Chaim's father. Apparently, he got it from his father. Have you ever seen a picture of the Beis HaLevi? It's like frightening. It's like almost as frightening as the Rogatchover, Shtei halachas. There are two requirements of Eidush Hatiyachal Azim. Achas, shetuchal ha'edus l'schachei shelibat al yidei hazama me'edim acherim she'omrim imanu ha'yisen. Fine, that's what we know, that's classic. But says the Beis HaLevi, there's something more fundamental about Eidush Hatiyachal Azima. She'inasein v'edim oso onish shezamu heim lasos. So again, I switched it around here because the more fundamental one is the first one. I said it was the second one. Anyway, we need to be able to be mevatel eidus. Will we be makayim kashazamam? Will we punish the edim because they wanted to do, etc., etc. Maybe yes, maybe no. But as far as the first halach is concerned, that we need HaZama as a process by which we can be mevatel their edus, that applies even if we cannot fulfill the kasher zaman, and we cannot do to the Edom what they wanted to do to the Nidon. The edus she'ein sarch she's kaim bem edus vasisim lo kasher zaman like edus ben grusha. We need to have the possibility of being mavarer and being mevatel and being makish the Edom if they give us answers to the question of makom and zman. And that comes under the pasuk of Vehine Eid Sheker Ha'ed. If the Edom Zomimim testify against, the Edom HaMazimim testify against the Edom Zomimim, now we determine that the Edom Zomimim Heidu Sheker. They perjure themselves with a lie. And every Edus has to be subject and lend itself to Vehine Eid Sheker Ha'ed, even if the second dimension of Kasher Zamim is impossible. So when Tosfos says that if you take Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza out of the Parsha of HaZama, you don't require Eidush HaTiyachol Azima, we're misunderstanding Tosfos. You certainly require Eidush HaTiyachol Azima. You have to have the ability to be Mazim and Makish the Edom, which can only be possible if they answer positively to the questions of Makom and Zman. Do we have to have the ability to put them to death in the same way that they wanted to put the Nidon to death? Or to make themselves Psule Kahuna the way that they wanted to make him into Apostle Kahuna? The answer is no. But we still require HaZama as part of the process of determining whether they're telling the truth or they're lying. So we can be Makish the Edom through HaZama and find and discover that Hine Eid Sheker Eid, and that applies to every single Edus. Whether or not we could be Makayim by the ownership of Kasher Zoma. Oh, tell you, Rabbosai, I don't know. If you're not jumping for joy now, I don't know what to say. I mean, this is like Olam Haba Mamish.
I feel vindicated.
Yeah.
So maybe you agreed with me.
Absolutely. You could have written the script. How are we doing on the clock?
You got about 2 minutes for my.
I see my friend is here, so maybe 2 minutes for my. Okay. Now you remember that the Gemara in Sanhedrin told us that if Edom testify against the treifa, that treifa was guilty of murder, they're potter. Why? Because it's Edom Sheyat Yachol Azima. And now we don't understand. Halo kevan sheyefshel l'kayim b'hem onish hazama b'shum tzad ein leposla mishum Edom Sheyat Yachol Azima. Sheyesh lanu lamish hakosav kasher zama lo nichtav le'inyan Edom Sheydu b'treifa klal. I added the word klal. Do you hear what I'm saying? We don't require Atiyachol Azima.
It's not relevant
in Edom Ben Grusha Chalutza. Why? Because they're not included in the parsha of Kasher Zoma. Well, guess what? Edom Sheydu al Treifa not included in the parsha of Kasher Zoma. So therefore, we shouldn't require Edom Atiyachol Azima. And therefore, we should be machshir the Edom and put the Treifa to death as a rotzeah. Because the pasuk Kasher Zomam does not apply to the case of Edom Sheidu as a treifa. Now I don't know who asked this question, but I tell you who quotes the question. That's the Noda B'Yehuda again. But the answer here we don't have time for tonight. And you'll please remind me is very, very beautiful, very fundamental. Maybe if you sleep on it tonight, you'll come up with the answer that you guys have been doing very well tonight. And you could have written a lot of scripts tonight. So we'll stop here. Okay then?
Go ahead.
Thank you.